Sometimes it's extremely hard to put into context how many important battles were fought during the First World War and how many lives were lost. I wanted to take a look at a battle that took place in the First World War, the Battle of Vimy Ridge. This was primarily a part of the Battle of Arras, and that was an offensive by British forces on the Western Front during the First World War. In April 1917, British troops attacked the defences of German troops near the French city of Arras, and overall the entire battle cost nearly 160,000 British and around 125,000 German casualties. And just let that sink in for a second, that's almost 300,000 lives lost in just one battle or region. It's pretty hard to comprehend and very sad. The Battle of Vimy Ridge took place in the Nord-Pas-de-Calais region of France and primarily involved 4 Canadian Corps divisions against 3 divisions of the German 6th Army. This engagement was part of the opening phase of the aforementioned Battle of Arras led by the British, and it actually served as a diversionary attack for the French Nivelle offensive. Now, what did I just say, Canadians? When you think of World War I, perhaps Canada isn't a nation that instantly springs to mind as being involved in the war. But when the British declared war on Germany, Canada was automatically brought into the fight as well because of Canada's status as a British Dominion, which essentially left foreign policy decisions in the hands of the British Parliament. Tally-ho, pip pip. That being said, the Canadian government did have the freedom to determine how involved the country would be in the war. So what was the point of this offensive? Why was Vimy Ridge so important? Well, the objective was for the Canadians to take control of German-held high ground along an escarpment or cliff at the northernmost end of the Arras offensive. By controlling this area, it would enable southern troops to flank without the concern of German fire from above. The ridge was an extremely valuable tactical position that offered an unobstructed view for tens of kilometres in all directions. It needed to be obtained, and so the offensive began. And as history tells it, the Canadians actually managed to capture most of the ridge during the first day of the attack thanks to a tactic known as a creeping barrage or a moving barrage. This was a barrage of artillery fire that moved forward at certain intervals. Essentially, the fire slowly moved forward, keeping pace with the infantry. By 1917, the technique was actually pretty advanced and well practiced. Forces would even use it in complex ways, with the barrage coming back and forth across the same ground in an attempt to try and hit defending forces who believed that a barrage had passed. Of course, the timing of every barrage had to be perfect though. If it was wrong or aimed slightly off, you could end up hitting your own troops with devastating effect. During the second day of the attack, the town of Thélus fell, as did the rest of the ridge once the Canadians overcame a significant German resistance. And on the 12th of April, the final objective was captured by the Canadians, the village of Givenchy-en-Gohelle. Probably completely butchered that name, but we'll go with it. And because of this, the German forces then retreated to the Oppy-Mericourt line. At this point, Canadian forces had managed to assert full control of the ridge, but of course it wasn't without cost or great sacrifice, suffering 10,602 casualties, 3,598 killed and 7,004 wounded. And the success of the Canadian Army in this battle was attributed to a number of reasons. Great and extensive training, tactical innovations, fantastic planning, confidence, bravery, as well as powerful and accurate artillery support. Couple that with the failure of the German 6th Army to properly apply the new German defensive doctrine, and the Canadians were victorious. Interestingly, this battle was actually the first occasion when all 4 divisions of the Canadian Expeditionary Forces participated in a battle together, and it went on to be made a symbol of Canadian national achievement and sacrifice. Another battle of sacrifice for the Canadians was during the Battle of the Somme and the Royal Newfoundland Regiment, July 1st, 1916. On this day, the regiment was almost completely wiped out after receiving an order to attack. Unfortunately, they couldn't get into a safer position to launch their assault because the communication trenches they'd normally used to move around with were blocked and congested with injured men and the bodies of the fallen. As such, Lieutenant Colonel Arthur Lovell Haddo issued an order to go straight over the top and across the surface. This put them directly in the firing lines of the dug-in German defenders who were waiting for them. Sadly, out of 780 men who went forward, only 110 of them survived. As such, July 1st has been known as Memorial Day in Newfoundland and Labrador ever since. Could we see parts of these battles in Battlefield 1, or perhaps parts of the Canadian military and their weapons? I'm sure we'll certainly see elements of the campaign take place in France and similar areas for multiplayer that we know of, so it's more than possible we'll see Canadians in the game. The history of World War I and the battles fought is very interesting, and between now and the release of BF1 I will cover a lot more of the important and more diverse battles of the Great War, and I hope that you enjoy listening to them as much as I enjoy learning about them as well. And that's all for today folks. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs down, and I'll see you in the next one.